Hello, my name is DJ Croteau, and I am with MicroAire Aesthetics, and today I want to talk to you about the LipoTower. This is a relatively new product from MicroAire. We are here in the MicroAire BioSkills Lab where we do surgeon training, and I want to take a few minutes today to show you how this thing is set up, how you can sell it, and how it's used. So when it arrives, it comes fully assembled just like this, and there's two boxes that are going to be in the crate. I'm going to go through the contents of these included accessories later on, but for now, let's get started on just setting this thing up. So the first thing you're going to do when you get set up is to look at the back here, and there are two screws that we're going to unscrew so that we can install a console. Now, if your customers are using a 1020 console, that will work with this, but I'm going to be using a 5020 console, which is the newer version. So you simply use a Phillips screwdriver, and when you turn these screws, they won't fall out. They're kept in place by a little spring that holds them there, so you don't have to worry about losing the screws. Then you simply remove this cover, set it aside, and we're ready to insert the 5020 console. Here is the 5020 console, and I'm just going to set it on this shelf and kind of slide it forward a little bit, put it right there in place. Now, in this area right here where we're going to be integrating the 5020 console, there is a hospital-grade outlet where we're going to plug it in. And then there is what we call a BNC connection, which is really just like a coaxial connection on your television. So I'm going to start off getting the power cable, which I've got right here, and I'm going to plug that into the 5020 console first, right there. And then I'm going to feed the outlet portion up through a little hole right here and plug that into the outlet, just like this. There we go. And now you're ready to hook up your BNC cable. This is one that is made for the 5020 console. You can tell because it has this blue end on it. I'm going to reach over and grab the one for the 1020 console. It has black on both ends of it. But either the 1020 or the 5020 will work with this device. So the silver part connects up here, just like it would on your television set. It's a coaxial cable. Slide the cable through the little hole there, the little port, and then simply connect it right here onto the back of the 5020. Screw it into place, and now your console is integrated into the LipoTower. So I'm going to replace this cover. I'm going to take a real quick moment to tell you about this cover. It seems kind of like a pain in the neck to have to take this off and do all that, but this tower is UL listed. That means that if something is spilled on it, the electronic componentry is going to stay safe. So this is part of the requirement of UL listing. This is the only such tower sold in the United States that has a UL listing. So that's a real competitive advantage when you're selling it, especially to hospitals. And certain states require UL listing, so that's also a competitive advantage. So I'm going to put this in place right now. When you're putting it in place, you'll notice that there's two little pegs on the top, and those connect onto two little holes, but it's very easy to put back in place. Now we're just going to tighten up these screws. And we're ready to go. So while I've got it in this orientation, I'll just point out that this piece right here is the main suction vacuum port. So we'll be referring to that when we connect up the tubing. I'm going to turn it around again. All right, now before we hook up all the accessories, I want to take just a moment to talk to you about the two different model numbers. There's the ASP 1020, which has no tumescent infiltration, and then there's the ASP 1021, which does have tumescent infiltration. And that difference can be seen right here on the side. This panel right here is indicative of the 1020. It does not have a tumescent module. And I'm going to take a moment now to put a tumescent module in there so you can see how it's done, and also because I have a feeling that most of the units we're going to sell will include tumescent infiltration. So let me get that module. It's right here. It comes in two pieces. there's the module itself, and there's this peristaltic pump. Now, it's really important to note that this is not a standalone tumescent infiltration system. I don't want anyone to think that you can get a LipoTower or a separate tumescent infiltration pump. They're always integrated. This will not run by itself. So let me grab a screwdriver and we'll connect that. Okay, so the ASP1020 is going to have no tumescent infiltration, so it's going to have this panel right here. And it's field upgradable if a person wants to add tumescent infiltration later. So I'll show you how to do that. It's going to be a very rare instance for you to have to do that. And then once we have the tumescent module in place, it'll be effectively a 1021. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to remove the two screws here that hold the panel in place. And I said screwdriver earlier, but it actually uses an Allen wrench, a 5/32 inch Allen wrench. So I'm going to just slide this out of here, and you'll note there is a little tab that connects when you're removing it. So I'll set that plate aside, and now I'm going to insert the tumescent module. So all you have to do is take this connection and plug it in, and then slide all the contents in place. And remember that little tab, and slide that into place. And then once that's there, you just put the screws in. It's very simple to connect. So this is how a 1021 would arrive. It would already have this tumescent module in place. If they order a LipoTower with tumescent infiltration, you're not going to have to do any of this stuff. I'm just showing you this because if they order an ASP1020 and you want to upgrade it later, you'll be able to. So then the last part of this is to take the peristaltic pump, align this groove right here with this thing that's sticking out right there. It's a little tricky, but just look in there and get it where you need it, and then give it a turn. You're all set. All right, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but when you order an ASP1021, it will have all that stuff already connected, so you'll be good to go. All right, now I'm just going to put on the IV pole hanger, which I'll get out of the box of accessories. And it's standard, it just screws right on. If you are using a tumescent measuring device, it will also screw right into that. The way this thing works, if you want to raise it and lower it, you use this little collar. So by lifting the collar, it is now movable, and when you let go, it stays in place. So you can even do it with one hand, very easy to move. All right, so now that we've got the thing basically set up, we're going to get to the fun part, which is setting up some of the accessories. So when this thing arrives, it comes with everything they will need to do at least one case, maybe more. At the top of the accessories box, they're going to have this flyer that shows every accessory they may need to order so they can keep this on a bulletin board and place reorders whenever they need to. The first thing we're going to do in setting up the accessories is to get out the biofilter. The biofilter is an assembly because it has a filter and a tube. So the way this thing hooks up, you just click it right into place here. There's a little connector. Slide the tube underneath this arm, and then remember how I said this is the main vacuum back here? We're just going to connect it right onto that. Now, this one is a plastic connector, but future models actually have a brass connector. So once your biofilter is in place, you can hook up the canister rings. So the canister rings come in two sizes. The ones that come with the LipoTower are 2,000 cc sized. So I'm going to slide this into position right here. Let me turn this so you can see it. There's little grooves, and the canister rings just slide right down into place. They're like cup holders. So the reason we designed cup holders is so that people could use different canisters if they like the kind of canister they're using right now. The canisters that we sell are like this, and they are linerless. They don't have a liner, so you can just drop one of these guys in place, and of course we also have the lids. So they're going to get 2 rings, 2 canisters, and 2 lids. So I'll go ahead and hook up the other 2 just so you get the feel. There's 4 slots on this, so you could put in as many as 4 canisters at a time. All right, and now the last step in hooking up the waste canister to the vacuum suction is a short tube that goes from here to there. And some people told me that customers will get 10-foot long sections of vacuum tubing and have to cut them down to make this kind of connection. So we're selling a nice short tube. And again, that comes with the LipoTower when it's delivered. So that's it. All right, now the last step is to just hook up the electricity and the foot pedals. So I'm going to turn this thing around and we're going to go low down here to the very bottom. We're looking at the back of the LipoTower now. And right down here, you can see a connection for the electrical plug. So make sure that's plugged into a hospital-grade outlet. I'm going to put the power in right there. Then this switch right here is called the mains disconnect, and that is plural mains. I would call it a main disconnect, but that's the official title of it. So when I flip this switch, it's like a circuit breaker. I'm turning it on, and you can faintly hear a little sound to indicate that everything's running. Now, this switch will be left in the on position all the time because it's like a circuit breaker, and the actual power on-off is on the front of the console. But while we're back here, let me show you the two foot switch connections. So also included are these foot switches. They're pneumatic, so pressing down on them with a little puff of air will operate certain functions of the LipoTower. So I'm going to put a pedal right in there, and now it's all set. And I'm going to turn this around here. All right, so now that we've turned on the mains switch, you'll see that this power switch on the front is glowing, which indicates that it's ready to be turned on. So we're going to turn on that switch, and you'll see this LED screen light up, and it will scroll through a couple of screens and eventually rest on the startup screen. There we are, showing vacuum pressure. We're going to do one more thing before we hook up the PAL handpiece, and that's to hook up the other foot switch. When you order a 1021 model, it comes with two foot switches because it comes with the tumescent module. So the other foot switch hooks up right here. Same kind of connection, it's just a straight pneumatic foot pedal. So we'll get this down here out of the way. And now we can hook up a PAL handpiece. This will also give me an opportunity to show you a little bit about the 5020 console. So let's turn the 5020 console on. You press this button down and hold it for just a second, and it'll spring to life. It'll scroll through a couple of screens there, and I'm going to grab the PAL handpiece. So here's a PAL handpiece. I'm going to set it down here and show you this new cable. Now, you're familiar with the PAL cable that works with the 1020 console. Well, the 5020 console uses a different cable. The 5020 console will not work with a 1006 PAL cable. So the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the protective covers on here. And I will let you know that sometimes these things are difficult to get off. I've heard people say that they're almost impossible to pull off if they get kind of jammed. What I have found is push them back on, then they come right off. And you can see they came right off for me. So the silver one connects to the PAL handpiece. Oh, one other thing I want to mention to you is both of these tethered caps are on the side of the cable that plugs into the console so that they're not banging around if they were on the side with the PAL. So let's hook this up to the console. And let's see here, there's a little white dot that you want to align to the top. And of course the red dot, as usual, lines up with the red dot on the PAL handpiece. So now if you'll notice the screen on the 5020, it says PAL here. This is all integrated. This cable tells the 5020 console what the device is. Now this console will also run small power orthopedic instruments, and the cable and the instrument will likewise indicate on the console which instrument is being used. So that's very cool. You'll also notice that there is a second port on the 5020 console, so you can run two PALs simultaneously. If I plugged another one in, this screen would split down the middle, and you would have controls for each of the two handpieces independently. So now that we've got this all hooked up, you'll remember that we integrated the 5020 console into the back of the LipoTower. The really cool thing about that is when you use this selector knob right here, you can set it to integrate with the PAL. So when I turn on the PAL throttle, it will turn on the vacuum pumps. Before I do that, I'd like to take you through all three of the settings on this control knob. At the moment, it's set at PAL. It's off because the PAL is off. If I want to turn it on so that the vacuum is running at all times, I simply turn the switch like this, and now you can hear the vacuum pumps have turned on. Now, this device is actually very quiet compared to some other devices. In fact, I brought another device with me to show you how loud ordinary pumps are. So let me get that. All right, so here's a little portable vacuum, and listen to how loud this thing is. That air compressor. So while you can hear this, bear in mind that this is a very loud room. It's echoey in here. This is actually quite quiet. Okay, so now back to the PAL. When this thing is set in the bypass mode, like we just had it, the pumps turn on, just like we just saw. If it's turned to the middle setting, it's operated by the PAL handpiece. So when I turn on this throttle, you can hear the vacuum pumps turn on as well. This is a very cool selling feature. This means that before inserting the cannula and before removing the cannula, the surgeon can turn the vacuum pumps off, which will treat the incision tissue much more gently than if the suction was on as the cannula passed in and out of the incision. And the third way to turn the vacuum pumps on is to position this in the foot switch setting. Then all you have to do is press the foot switch, and the machine turns on and off. Please note that the foot switch is an on-off foot switch. It's not like a throttle where you press it down and hold it to keep it on. Once pressed, it's on, pressed again, and it's off. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to adjust the vacuum pressure. I have attached some standard PAL tubing to the cannula on the handpiece. I'm going to set that down right here, and I'm going to attach the other end of the tubing to the waste canister, just like you would ordinarily do. So there it is. And this knob right here is the vacuum pressure adjustment knob. When it is all the way counterclockwise, it's at its minimum setting, and when it's turned clockwise, it is at its maximum setting. So to get started, I'm going to turn it all the way down to its minimum setting. I'm going to pick this up, and I'm going to use the bypass mode, so the pumps are going to be on at all times. So I turn that on with this selector. Now the vacuum pressure is turned on. I'm going to crimp the PAL tubing. That's a method some people use, just to make sure that we've got complete vacuum resistance while I'm adjusting the pressure. I'm going to turn this up slowly, and I'm going to try to hit it right at around 18. And it's kind of tricky to hit right at 18, but anything between 18 and 20 is considered the right setting for cell viability. So that's really all there is to the vacuum adjustment, and now I'll release that. But we're ready to start our procedure. Let me now show you tumescent infiltration. Okay, so I have a standard IV bag here that would ordinarily be including epinephrine and lidocaine, of course. I've already spiked it with a single spike tube. We do sell the single spike tubing, but it does not come with the LipoTower. That has to be requested separately. So once the person wants to use the infiltration, it's a standard peristaltic pump, so you flip it open like this. And you locate the section of tubing that has the thicker portion that slides right into the pump. Then you close the latch. And for people who haven't done this before, it seems counterintuitive to be mashing that tube in there, but that is how it works. I'll show you how it works. Inside of this pump, there are little wheels that circle around and push the fluid through the tube. So the way this motor is controlled is with this on-off switch right here. So I'm going to turn it on, and you can see the rotation of those little wheels in there. This potentiometer knob can be used to turn the flow rate up. The LipoTower infiltration has a flow rate setting of as low as 50 and as high as 700. So I'll turn it off here, and I'll set this tube in place, close the lid, and now if I turn it on, it will draw fluid from the bag through the tube into the tumescent infiltration cannula. If a doctor wishes to reverse the flow rate, we do not have a reverse switch, as some models do, but all you have to do is turn the tube around, and now it's pulling and filling the bag. So I will show you one other thing about the tumescent infiltration, and that is the foot pedal. The foot pedal hooked in right here, as we saw earlier, and with this on, the pedal will turn off and on. So that's pretty much it for the setup of the LipoTower. I just want to kind of review a couple of things in summary. I didn't mention the lockable casters, but this thing is very portable. It's got a nice handle on the back, and you've seen me kind of spinning it around. It is heavy, but it rolls really nicely, and it can be taken from room to room in surgery centers and hospitals. It also has storage baskets in the bottom, and there's also one in the rear. An additional shelf can be purchased, and the shelves are also fully adjustable for height. And there is another size of waste canister. I mentioned that earlier, but let me show it to you. This one is 1,200 cc's. This one is 2,000 cc's. So they can get a 1,200 cc waste canister ring and waste canister. And again, because this has room for 4, it just slides right in place, and then this drops into place. So for different styles, and if they don't like these, if they want to use canisters that have liners or those really tall ones, customers should find a good variety of options with the rings. But of course, we encourage you to sell the canisters from us. And I wanted to mention one final thing, and that's about literature and sales information. There are 3 documents here that I want to show to you. The first one is the basic LipoTower brochure, and this includes all of the information that we've gone over in here, plus all of the accessories. So this is available now on the website to be ordered and shared with your customers. The LipoTower comes with an IFU that has step-by-step photos of the setup that we just went through. And when this thing ships, it's going to come with little index card, like 3x5 cards, attached to the handle, so that if someone who is unfamiliar with the setup of the LipoTower comes into an operating room, they can just refer to these cards and set everything up in a jiffy. And the last piece I want to show to you is a new product introduction guide. This was emailed to all sales representatives, and it includes information about all the part numbers and pricing and sales strategies. So with this mediocre video and these other documents, I think you'll have everything you need to sell this and set it up for your customers. Thank you very much for watching, and please call me directly if you have any questions.